The knife is a Spyderco Para Military 2 in M390. It's a bento box exclusive. M390 is a high carbide powder metallurgy steel made by Burr. It's their third generation of powder metallurgy, what they call their micro clean. M390 is an excellent choice for an all-round steel, especially for a folding knife. It's similar in composition to CTS 204P and CPM 20CV. This is Bowler's version. They all have very, very similar compositions. There's some reports of differences in performance, but the differences are slight. So what you're talking about here is you're talking about 1.9% carbon, 4% vanadium, 20% chromium. That 20% chromium, M390 was originally developed for the plastics industry to be used in highly corrosive environments where abrasion resistance was needed. It works out very well in a knife. But that 20% chromium is gonna protect you from corrosion on the blade. It really stands up to it well. It really holds up. I mean, I've had, you hear about S90V getting corrosion, or I mean, I've even seen S30V get corrosion, but I've never seen it with M390. I would be surprised. Because of the small grain size, because of it's a third generation powder metallurgy steel, you've got an increase in toughness. I don't think that it's a tough steel like, say, the basic carbon steels are, like 1095 or 52100, but given that it's a high carbide steel in that class, I think that it's got a toughness rating that's just fine. Should be plenty enough for a folding knife. It being offered in the Paramilitary 2 is great. I can't say enough good things about the Paramilitary 2. The ergonomics are great. The blade geometry is great. The distal taper, the thin tip, the way that it carries the weight, it really was well thought out and well done. And like I said, I just can't say enough good things. The lock on it, the compression lock, is probably one of the best locks in the industry. Which isn't to say toughest locks in the industry or strongest locks in the industry, but as far as function goes, the function of the knife and how the lock functions and how it goes in use, it's one that I really, really prefer if I have the choice. So I had gotten this knife and I was looking forward to it. It was offered a few years back from Bento Box, and I wasn't around to pick it up then. So when I saw that it was being offered again, I jumped on it. I was ready for it. I got the knife and I sharpened it, and the edge that comes up on M390 for me is, at least from Spyderco, is I couldn't be more pleased with it. It takes a very fine edge that gets extremely, extremely aggressive. I'm as pleased with it as any edge that I'm getting on any steel. And it's not that difficult to attain that edge. The other thing is the burr formation seems to be easier to control. I mean, I've even heard some reports say that you don't get a burr with M390. Now, that's not true. I get a burr, but I don't run away from that. I embrace it. It lets me know that I'm apexing the knife properly, and that kind of plays into the sharpening, me getting the knives as sharp as I want. But it's not hard to take off. It's not a problem. So I sharpened the knife. It was absolutely hair whittling sharp, and I carried it for weeks, and I wanted to see how it would hold up and how it would wear, and I thought it would be interesting to go through a certain amount of time and see if I could bring the edge back to hair whittling, or at least how far I could bring it back. So after carrying the knife for a month, I was carrying these strops on me. Now I'm saying strops. That's a pretty loosely used term in this case. These are just pieces of leather with compound on them. This is a 1/4 micron, 1/2 micron, and 1 micron. And when I first attempted to bring the edge back to hair whittling, I simply used a 1/4 micron and a 1/2 micron, and I couldn't do it. It wasn't enough. So I went back the next day again and started with a 1 micron, then 1/2, then 1/4 micron, and I was able to bring the edge back to hair whittling. Now this is after carrying it for a month, carrying it and using it daily. It wasn't the only knife that I was carrying. It wasn't the only knife that I was using, but I wasn't shying away from use with it. I was, if I, reached for a knife in my pocket, this is what I was grabbing 9 times out of 10. So it's impressive performance from the steel. I mean, it really holds up well. It does a good job. So yeah, I mean, for a folding knife, M390 it's up there in top choices of what kind of steel you might want. I wanted to sit down and do this video. I figured I would do a sharpening for it. M390 will take a polish. I don't know if it'll. I mean, I kind of doubt it'll take a polish as easily as some of the non-vanadium steels, because it is 4% vanadium. I don't shoot for a high polish with M390. That's not what I look for. I look for a coarse finish that's a little bit refined, and that gives me the edge that I want. I started on diamond stones from DMT, the diafold sharpeners, starting with coarse. I worked with that and then moved to fine, and then made my way to extra fine and extra, extra fine. I don't find any problems working with M390 with the diamond stones. It moves right through them. After those sharpeners, I moved on to a ultrafine bench stone from Spyderco. Now, here's where I refine the edge a little bit. I spend extra time on the ultrafine stone. I might double the time that I would normally spend, trading the burr back and forth a little bit. After the ultrafine stone, I moved on to strops, using wood strops, starting with a 3 micron. I worked my way through that, and although the burr is there, it seems to come off easier with M390 than with some other steels. There's really no issue with it. It doesn't put up that much of a fight. After the 3 micron, I moved on to a 2.5 micron and then a 1.5 micron. After that, I moved on to diamond sprays. Those were oil-based compounds. They were diamond compounds, but oil-based. After that, I moved on to sprays, and I started with a 1 micron on wood, and then worked with a 0.5 micron on wood. After that, I moved on to leather, starting with a 1/4 micron, making my way down to a 0.005 micron on leather. That's as fine as I can go. That 0.005 micron. That's 3.2 million grit. That's as far as I can push it. The edge that comes up on M390, at least following that pattern when I'm sharpening it, like I said, it's as good as of an edge as I get on anything. I couldn't be more pleased with it. It's absolutely hair whittling sharp, almost beyond hair whittling, and the bite that's on it, the way it'll catch into your skin if you touch the edge is very pleasing. I mean, it's the aggression that I can get on it is it's just a beautiful thing. I really am pleased with it. So I'm glad that Spyderco put this out again. I'm glad that Bento Box put it out again. It was a smart move, and it allowed for a lot of us to get a second chance to pick one up that didn't get one the first time around. So M390 is a good steel. Like I said, it's amongst my top choices for a folding knife. It really performs well. I'm glad that Spyderco put it out.